Alice with his wife Allison, an attorney. Um, Laura Jean, this is your reminder to start recording in a moment.
Okay.
This event will be recorded and may be made publicly available on the agency's website or other agency forum. Any images or messages submitted as part of the session may be included in that recording. All participants have the option of participating in listen-only mode and do not have to share their video. I'm now going to turn things over to Laura Jean to begin our discussion.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kaylee, so much. And again, thank you, Mr. Hunsicker, for joining us this evening.
Thank you. Thank you for that great introduction.
Yeah, well, Kaylee is the best, only the best.
I'm telling you.
Um, but so I guess we'll jump right in if that's okay with you.
Let's do
Um,
it.
so just start off by telling us a little bit about yourself.
So, what can I say that Kaylee hasn't said? I mean, that was who did that? Did I write that for you, or
I
did you
think
come
you
up with
did.
that?
I think I
I
totally stole it from your website. So,
okay. That sounded like I do so many bios. I don't, you do a short one, you do a medium length one, you do a long one, and I guess that probably is from the website. I hadn't looked in a while. No, that is me. My ninth novel came out in October. Um, I'm the I'm happy to announce, and I'm grateful to be doing what I love to do. It's great to know what you're supposed to be doing and to be doing it. So I've my first one came out in May of 2005. I can't believe it's coming up on 20 years. It seems like yesterday, but it's going to be 2 decades here before I know it. And I've had a great time doing it, and working on another one right now. So um, that's who I am.
all right. Well, so as an author, have you always wanted to be a writer, or did the desire to did it start at a later time, or how did that evolve?
So I've always wanted to be a writer. I was an only child, and so books were my friends. And I grew up before we had phones and social media and Xboxes and all that kind of stuff. So I've always wanted to be a writer from like a really, really early age. They kind of figured out that I had that bent. When I was 10 years old, for Christmas, somebody gave me a an old typewriter, and I mean an old typewriter, like the clickety clack kind, where the keys would, the keys would get stuck if you hit them too fast.
Yeah.
And I tried to write my first piece of work at 10 at Christmas time when I got this typewriter. I wrote I tried to write a screenplay, and I didn't even know what a screenplay was, but I wanted to write one. And my story was, it was Christmas time. Remember, my story was going to be the story of Mary and Joseph and the birth of baby Jesus. Christmas
Hmm.
time, right? So but the twist was they came to Dallas to give birth to baby Jesus instead of Bethlehem. And so, and then after Jesus was born, they all went shopping at Neiman's. So that was my first attempt. Sadly, that work has not survived the years, but
Oh, how unfortunate.
I know. Wouldn't that be awesome if it
It
had?
really, it really would.
Yeah, but it didn't. I remember I did it on Manila paper.
Hmm.
Like that stuff you used to crayon on. I
Yeah.
wrote it on Manila paper. Anyway, that was my first attempt at writing. So I wanted to do this my entire life.
It's great. But then you got waylaid into the daily run of the mill, and
Right,
so
right.
your day job for a while was running your family business as a commercial real estate
Yeah, I
appraiser.
was a commercial real estate appraiser for 32 or 33 years.
Oh wow, that's quite a while.
It was a long time. It was a long time because everybody who does what I do, well, 99% of the people who do what I do have a day job or have kind of retired or something. I mean, they've got uh, it's not it's not quite a living wage.
Gotcha.
Most people.
Did it help you in your writing in any way?
So yes, it did. Uh, being an appraiser, I mean, I grew up in Dallas. Where is everybody? Is everybody in Texas or
Yeah,
around?
everyone, all of our patrons, all of our readers are in the state of Texas, but they're
Okay,
all over. So tonight, I know we've got someone from Bryan, someone from McKinney, someone from Abilene. We've
okay,
got,
okay.
yeah.
All right. So I grew up in Dallas. And it was Dallas is like a lot of big cities. It's a bunch of small neighborhoods that are kind of neighborhoods, cities, towns into themselves. So I grew up in North Dallas, and that was kind of my world. And then I became a real estate appraiser, and I realized that in Dallas and in Fort Worth and in all the cities around Dallas and Fort Worth, there are all these other places that I had never seen when I was growing up, and I'm seeing them now because of my job. And I'm like, wow, this is cool. There's all this neat stuff out here I didn't know existed. And so I sat down and realized that I wanted to write, but I wanted to really make kind of illuminate the place I grew up in. And so I wanted to make the city and the area character in my books. And hopefully I've done that sort of. I'm a big fan of James Lee Burke, and he does such a wonderful job of doing that with Louisiana. So I've tried to really give people a sense of what the area is like.
Well, I feel that I mean, I can only speak for myself. I feel that you really do, actually.
Thank you, thank
Yeah,
you.
no, it gives me a feel, at least reading the Still River, it gave me a feel for um I guess the grittier side of Dallas than
Yeah,
I've been exposed to,
yeah.
you know.
I
I've
went
just been downtown basically, so
right. Where are you? Are you in Austin?
yes.
Okay, yeah. No,
But
it is gritty. Who wants? I didn't want to go to the nice parts of town. I want to go to the gritty parts of town.
well, I mean, I guess it makes sense considering that you're writing thrillers. It makes,
Right.
almost like they've got such a great noir feel to
Yeah.
them.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. So yeah. So and it was funny because I don't ever think of Dallas as being a gritty city, um but it certainly is in your books. And it definitely I feel
Good.
it they evoke a strong sense of place. How
Good.
and
Good.
are there tricks you have to making Dallas feel that way? Because it's almost like Dallas is a character, along with, say, John Cantrell or, you know,
Yeah. Well, I don't know what the tricks are. I just write. I just want to. I want to be transported when I read a book. So I try to let other people be transported when I write a book.
hmm
So I put as much in there while being economical with words because you don't want pages and pages of description. But I put as much in there as I can to really get people a flavor of the area.
no, no, that makes sense. And would you say that you feel that the setting influences the rest of the book?
Yes, it does. Because I wrote the book, Still River. The book is about a private detective in Dallas named Lee Oswald. He's
hmm
not Lee Harvey Oswald. He's Lee Henry Oswald. And so that works because it's in Dallas. And it was kind of it's a little bit of a shtick kind of a thing, but
hmm
I think it's fun. And as time goes on, less and less people get the connection, which is kind of sad, but
Yeah.
funny how things fall by the wayside. Even that,
Yeah, even that, which,
yeah,
such a big
which
thing.
should fall by the wayside, but still, it's a historical fact, and it's interesting that
Well,
there's not
and
a
Texas centric too.
right Texas centric exactly.
So, what would you say led you into writing thrillers and suspense? And have you ever thought of writing in a different genre?
Well, no, I haven't. I That's what I read.
hmm
I tried to write the Great American Novel when I started out, and turns out I don't do that very well. I wrote 100 pages of just this boring guy who would eat a sandwich and kind of ruminate on what that meant about his life, and then go drink a cup of coffee somewhere and think about the meaning of life and all that kind of stuff. And that was just he was boring. So I killed him, and buried him in a desk drawer, and then it was interesting. It took 6 months to write about 100 pages of that guy. And then I realized that I didn't really read. I read widely, but I didn't read. I didn't concentrate on books that could be termed literary fiction or great American novels. I read a lot of commercial fiction. I read mysteries. I read spy novels. I read detective books. I read thrillers, techno thrillers, that kind of thing. So I kind of had this moment where I thought, well, maybe that's what you should be writing, is
Mm.
what you read. And that led to Lee Oswald and the first book. And here I am.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I like how you had that like epiphany that
Yeah.
no, maybe I
And
should.
it was epiphany. It was an epiphany. Yes.
And what led you originally to decide like did you just want to do it right or this is how you imagined that writers did it? Is that why you went for literary fiction first, even though that wasn't necessarily something you enjoyed reading?
So that's a really good question. And I have tried to figure that out uh, for a long time. I've tried to come up with that, and I still don't know why. That kind of uh, tickles the back of my mind, trying to understand why I didn't realize what I read and what I should be writing. I don't know. To answer, at the
That's
end of the day, I
perfectly
don't know.
honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, no, that's perfectly honest. That's totally fine. Um, so one of the things I do like about it is the again the grittiness, the noir feel, like the hard-boiled detective, um, and you evoke it so well in the books of yours that I've read. Um, Generally, in that kind of a novel, there's no return to moral order even after the crime is solved. Um, and so they're a little bit on the bleak side if you think about it that way.
Right.
Um, and definitely, Lee has or Hank, excuse me, has a very jaded, cynical view of society.
Yes.
Does
Yes.
that mirror your own view, or would you say you're more optimistic in
Pretty
nature?
much. That pretty much mirrors my own view. I'm
That's
a
fair.
little jaded,
I
just a
figure it
little.
would be a little easier to
Yeah.
write when you feel that way yourself.
Yeah. But there's always a redemption thing with any of the stories because uh, I'm trying to think. I don't think the bad guy gets away with it in anything I've ever written.
Mm, that's
Maybe
fair.
some of the short fiction has, but there's always a redemptive quality to it on some level.
That's more than fair. So we've only gotten the first book in that series recorded, and we just finished the first book in your John Cantrell
Oh, good.
series.
The contractors.
Yes,
Great. Great.
I was so excited to see that. The timing was
Yeah.
really good. It and for our readers, it's not yet up on Bard to download. Um,
Okay.
so they still have to mark it and things like that. But just definitely, we should have it available to them very
Right.
soon.
Right.
And once we start a series, we finish it. So
Wonderful.
the others
Wonderful.
will be coming along hopefully soon. And but as far as that goes, um, this is a trilogy, right? And once you finish the third book, do you have any plans to continue Hank's story later?
Not really. If somebody came along, some publisher came along and said, "Boy, we'd really like you to keep going with that," you know, I would. But I think three is enough for him. You need to keep mining some fresh emotional territory of the main character with each book, and you kind of run out of things. Actually, I mean,
Mhm.
you can only put him so much through so much physical trauma, through so much emotional trauma. Otherwise, it becomes kind of silly almost.
Sure,
So
sure. Yeah, almost a satire of it.
almost a satire, right?
No, no, that makes sense. So trilogy. And
Yeah.
then so when you were writing your first series, and I'm not sure how the your publishing situation was, because I've had other authors where they got the first book, they published, and then they were pressured to write a second. Were you pressured at all, or was it like, oh, I've got more things to talk about with Hank.
Well,
Let me
I
share them
mean,
with you.
the yeah, I mean, pressure is not the right thing, but yes, I mean, I sold the first book, and then they came back before it came out and said we want two more, and I said that's awesome, but then I'm like, whoa, I've got to write two more. That's I've only done one. I don't know how all this the second one works, so I mean, it's the old "be careful what you wish for" kind of a thing. But I was very grateful for the opportunity, and uh, I rose to the challenge. I met all my deadlines, so
Yeah.
uh, that's that would be a plus.
Oh, definitely. All right. Well, so you've also got, as I mentioned, John Cantrell, and
Right?
then also Arlo Baines. Um, what makes you decide to start a new character? What kind of happens? Are you like, oh, I'm done with Hank's story, or do you have a character, kind of a nascent character percolating in your brain?
I always have a nascent character percolating in my brain. I've always got
Okay,
something
fair.
percolating back there, and um, you get you in anything you want to keep pushing forward and trying to do something new
Hmm.
and stretching yourself. And I think finding new characters is a good starting with a new character is a good way to stretch yourself.
See that. And do you have nascent characters that never actually come to fruition? Ones that you're playing around
Oh
and they just,
yeah, yeah. There's a bunch of stuff. There's a bunch of books that have never come to fruition that I finished and that just are kind of in a drawer somewhere that'll probably never see the light of day. But that's the way it goes.
no, I can see that. I can see that. Well, tell us a little bit about the publishing journey, because I know that you changed publishers for the Arlo Bain series. You moved to publish at Amazon's Thomas and
Yeah,
Mercer imprint. So tell
yeah.
us a little bit about that entire journey.
So the journey is, and it is a journey. It is
Mm,
not the journey is the point, not the destination. There is no destination. You just keep going. You finish a book. Well, okay, that's great. The book comes out. That's great. You working on something else? What's coming next? I mean, unless you're like the Catcher in the Rye guy or somebody who or uh, uh, To Kill a Mockingbird, Harper Lee. You got to keep churning. So it is a journey. Um, they At some point you want to try to see if you can get into a better place creatively, and sometimes that means you end up going to a different publisher.
sure. And how does that, do you shop around for them or how does that?
Well, my agent shops around for them. Yes,
Ah, fair.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's what you're looking. Sorry, that's
No,
what you're looking for.
no, no,
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
That's all right. And are you pleased with the current imprint? I
I
mean,
am. They're great. They've been great. They've been great.
awesome.
They did a
Awesome.
great cover, and they've been wonderful to work with, and just have had a great time with them.
Good. Good. So tell us a little bit about how writing novels is different than writing screenplays. Like, is the process pretty similar, or is it like totally night and day?
So I write screenplays. I started doing them because as a creative way to stretch myself, and then I typically do one between novels because writing a novel is like running a marathon,
Mm,
and you don't want to just stop cold. So it's kind of like a cool down period almost,
sure.
and you're kind of stretching different muscles. Uh, there are a lot of similarities and a lot of differences. The similarities are you're still telling a story. Uh, Someone is struggling against the obstacle and a conflict, trying to accomplish a goal, beginning, middle, and end, 3 act structure, that kind of thing. But the differences is, a novel, a manuscript for a novel is 300 pages maybe,
Hmm.
uh, and a screenplay is 100 pages. So there's physically less typing, and there's less that goes into it because you have to paint a picture uh, for it's a they say the screenplay, and it's true, is a blueprint for someone else, for a group of other people to take it and then make a product. And when I write a book, that is the finished product. But a screenplay is just a blueprint. So you don't put in as much description. You don't you put in as little as possible. The, Even with a novel, you use less is more, but it's less is more times 10 with the screenplay,
Hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, like you said, because it's more of a blueprint. It's not
It
fleshed
is a
out.
blueprint. Exactly. Yes.
So do you find that you have to kind of pare them down, your screenplays, or is that
Yeah.
just simply part of the writing process
Yeah.
anyhow?
You got to pare it down. You got to write it and then pare it down and then pare it down some more. It's crazy. It's one line descriptions and one line for action, and it's a fast, fast, fast.
Yeah, no, yeah, because I guess it would the sort of descriptions that would, make a book longer, you don't have them.
Right.
So
You don't
no,
have
just
exactly.
just setting in the very beginning or at the beginning of each new scene
Yeah.
and fascinating.
Exactly.
Do you prefer writing one over the other or do you like them both for different
I like them
reasons?
both for different reasons. I don't. I mean, it's fun to do a screenplay because you can do one really compared to a novel pretty fast. You
Hmm.
can do one in a couple months, and a novel at a minimum for me, at a minimum takes 6 months. So it's you can and you know if it's going to work or not quickly, as opposed to a novel. Even with an outline, you might come along and find out it doesn't work after 6 or 8 months of your life
Yeah,
being
I can see that being a little frustrating. Put all that work into
just
something.
just a little, yes.
Well, I actually thank you actually for sending me the link for Shit Squad.
Oh, good,
I
good,
really enjoyed it.
good,
I
good.
like your sense of humor.
Well, that's what I'm known for. Yeah, yeah. That was, and that guy, the director, cut out a bunch of the jokes in that. There was a
Oh,
lot more
really?
one-liners in there, and I cussed him up and down. He's a friend of mine, so I he's a
So you
friend
can get away
now.
with it?
He's a friend now, and I was mad as hell. I said, "Why are you taking out all the stuff?" He said, "No, no, trust me, it's better." And it really was. It it it. There was just too many jokes. It got in the way of the story. I mean, one or two more wouldn't have killed the story, but he knew what he was doing. I grudgingly give him that.
Well, that's good, especially
Yeah,
when you were so upset on the front end. But yeah,
yeah. No,
yeah.
I'm acting like I was upset. I really wasn't, but it was. I was. It's the. It was an interesting process to see what he what he wanted to keep, and what he wanted to cut,
Okay.
because there was a bunch of stuff that just got changed. Then I thought at the ending, I thought, well, I didn't need that. I really didn't need that at all. I It worked fine the way they did it, because when you're making the movie, they're making a movie. I've learned on my experience of one time, based, mind you, making a movie is all about compromises, because
Uh-huh.
sometimes you can't get the location you thought you were going to get. Sometimes the sound guy doesn't show up, or sometimes something else happens. And so you have to kind of make these choices that affect the story. And you got to do what you got to do, because you got a crew there, and time is money.
Mhm. And so that it's almost like that in a way, the director does the work for your screenplay that the editor does with your books.
Well, it's a little different.
Uh-huh.
I have with in publishing, the editor says you should change this, or should change that, and I can say no. I have
Mhm.
final say. I have final cut, to use the screenplay, the movie making terminology. I have final cut on a book. On a screenplay, I sell it to them, and I have zero cut, unless
Oh,
I'm
wow.
Martin Scorsese or something like that. But I got no say.
Wow. I hadn't
Yeah,
realized that.
yeah.
Well,
Unless I'm
after that
producing it
experience
myself,
though. Oh, I'm sorry.
unless I'm producing it myself or directing it myself, I got nothing to do with it.
I see. I see. And in that case, you wouldn't be selling it. You'd be
Developing it, doing it myself, right?
right.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
I can't. I Directing is a hard thing. People come and get 100 people an hour asking you what color this should be and where to put the light there and do that kind of stuff. That would drive me crazy. So
Hmm.
I figured out early on that one for me.
Yeah, no, that's more than fair. So after this experience, was it like overall positive? Would you want to do it again? Or are
Oh
you
yeah, I'd
like,
love
yeah,
to.
that's
I
it for
love
me?
to. We had a great time. We had a
Good,
great time.
good.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. Um, and it won awards.
It did. I know. Best screenplay at a little film festival in Idaho. of
I
all
know.
places. How about that?
That's
I'd never
really
been to
cool.
Idaho. I went. It was fun.
Oh, cool. What
Yeah.
was that experience like?
So I'd never been to Idaho. I submitted to a bunch of film festivals, and this uh, festival in um, Twin Falls, Idaho, picked it up.
Hmm.
And so my wife and I said, well, shoot, we've never been, let's go. So we flew to Boise, which is a wonderful town, never been there. And then you drive down kind of southeast from Boise through some mountains and you come to Twin Falls, which is named for its Twin Falls. It's truth in advertising. Uh, it was a really nice, fun, great people put the festival on. So Twin Falls, no, I don't know if any of you all remember. Some of you probably do. I didn't until I got there, but that was where the Snake River runs right through Twin Falls. That's where the
Hmm.
falls are, and that's where Evil Knievel tried to jump the river back in the 70s. Does anybody remember that? You guys remember that?
I
In
remember Evil Knievel,
Okay,
but not that particular jump.
so that might be my age. You might be too young for that. Probably are, but um, that was the biggest thing ever. I mean, that consumed the world for the week leading up to that because
Wow.
he was this famous media personality jumping buses at Caesars Las Vegas, and he just wanted to keep turning it up, amping up the hype, and so he decided to jump a river. He wanted to jump the Grand Canyon, and
Oh,
the U.S.
golly.
Department of Interior said, "No, you're not doing that. Can't do that." So he searched for a big, cool place to jump, and he found out that they would let him jump the Snake River in Idaho. And so there's a monument to what he did, and then the mound he jumped over is still there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was kind of it's. I love kitschy stuff like that, so it was fun. Go
Yeah, no,
check
no,
that
that
out.
sounds fun. And how did you find out that I mean, did they invited you? They said, "Oh, by the way, you've won an award. Come to our
No, they
festival."
didn't. I
Or
didn't know until I got there. I didn't know until I got there that I won an award.
oh,
I
that's
went
neat.
just out of the blue.
Well, and then it was even a lovely surprise. That's
It
great.
was a lovely surprise. I was shocked. I felt like Sally Field. You like me. You like me. You know,
Well, that validation is always nice. Like
the
you
validation
can
is
know
always
it's
nice.
good, but having other
Right.
people like it.
Exactly.
So you were the former executive vice president of the Mystery Writers of America. How did that
Yes.
come about?
So I was active in the local chapter, and then I got active in the national organization, and then they asked me. It's voluntary. It's a voluntary position, so it's not like it took a lot of time, but it was they asked me, I did it for 1 year, and I had a great time. Met a ton of people, um, traveled a lot, and it was a really benefit or interesting, fun, fulfilling experience.
Good, good. Well, is there anything new you're working on that you can tell us about? Give us a little bit of a sneak peek.
I'm working on another book. It's I don't really I'm not talking about it yet. No,
That's
no,
fair.
no. Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. I'll let him or her percolate a little further in your brain.
exactly. Right.
Well, if you're cool with it, we might open it up to our readers so they could ask you some questions. Would that be all right?
Yeah, that's been great. Let's do it.
Okay. All right, guys. Haley?
All right, if you would like to make a comment or ask a question, you can raise your hand. And to do that, you can dial *9 if you're on the phone, or you can use the raise hand reaction in your Zoom window. And then if you need a keyboard shortcut for that, excuse me, it's Alt-Y. And then once I call on you, you can unmute and ask your question. I guess I would remind you to keep it on topic and be polite. And the first person we have is Zola. Zola, you can unmute and ask your question.
Okay. My question is, besides yourself, who's your favorite author? And what one of your works, one of your books, do you consider your favorite? What
What
was
a
the most fun one for you to write?
what a great way to ask that question. Besides yourself, who's your most favorite author? No one ever asks it that way. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Um, Gosh, my most favorite author probably. I've got so many. I'm looking at his row on my bookshelf right now. I'm going to say Don Winslow was one of my all-time favorites. I'm a big fan of Michael Conley and as well as Lee Child. And I just finished Attica Locke's last book, and I love her stuff too. I don't know if y'all have ever read any of her, and I'll stop there. Now, what was your other question? I'm sorry.
And also, what is your favorite book to write? What gave you
Of
more
my
joy?
books.
Right.
You know, my favorite, honestly, I think is this last one, The Next Time You Die. Um, I think it all. Sometimes when you're writing it, it comes together, and sometimes it sort of comes together, but sort of doesn't. And I think it all came together with this last one, Next Time You Die. I feel like everything gelled with that one correctly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zola. Next, we have Sally from McKinney. Sally, you can unmute and ask your question. And if you're on a phone, you can unmute by doing *6. There you go.
I just wanted to know the time that you were traveling for the mystery writers. Did you get a chance to talk to these people and gain some extra knowledge that you probably didn't get in a classroom to help you develop your plots more clearly and with a finer tuning in your books?
That's an interesting question. No, I didn't. There was a lot of stuff. I learned a lot about the publishing industry, but I didn't really learn any craft stuff about writing books during that time. I read a lot of books because there were a lot of books around that I needed to read for award type stuff, and people were publishing this book or that book. And reading is always the best way to learn the craft. So, in that sense, it did help me because I was exposed to a lot of different books that I might not have picked up otherwise. Mm-hmm. So, in that sense, I did get something out of it for the craft.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the reasons we like the book club, is it gets us out of our comfort zone and we read things that we normally wouldn't pick up sometimes. So, yes, I can see that. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Kent. Kent, you can unmute and ask your question.
I was wondering if you were to do a TV series, what would you like to do? Would it be a detective mystery or something like that?
It'd be anything they'd want, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, detective show would be good. I think we need another good procedural detective show. Yeah, I would love to do that. The one I did 2 books before this last one was called The Devil's Country, and it's about a guy, ex-Texas Ranger, whose family's murdered, and he's kind of devastated. He's totally devastated by that, and he ends up in this little town and finds another family that reminds him of his own, and they're in trouble. And he has to save them, and he's really trying to save his own family who died to make amends to them. And so I think that would make a good TV show or a movie. But yeah, the detective genre, broadly speaking, the detective genre would be where I would think would make a good TV show, my stuff.
Okay, thank you for that. Zola, you have another question. You can unmute and ask.
Yes. I wanted to ask again, like, what is your atmosphere like when you're getting ready to write? Like, what do you like your surrounding to be like? sometimes when I think of an author, they might be out in the woods or, just some secluded place, maybe a house on the beach or something like that. And, are there some things that you do to get you ready? And does it, do you have like a period of time where you say, you know what, I'm going to spend 5 hours today on the book? And do you go like straight or do you take breaks in between? I just am interested in how
Sure.
you
In the
prepare
process.
yourself.
Yeah, in the
Yeah.
process. Well, I'd love to have a house on the beach to write in. I think that'd be awesome. No, I have an office. I'm in my office at home right now. That's where I write. I couldn't write. I don't know anyone who could write 5 hours straight. Create who could write new pages 5 hours straight. I can certainly work 5 hours straight, but it would take. It would be. You'd write for an hour and then edit for an hour and then write for an hour and then take a little break and then do some more editing. It's really hard to produce new pages. It takes that takes a lot out of you. What I do to warm up every day before I start writing is I do something called morning pages, which are 3 pages I write by longhand on a yellow pad, and I do that. It's just kind of it's a it's an exercise I got onto a book by Julia Cameron called The Artist's Way, and it's a way to the very first thing you do in the morning before you do anything else is write 3 pages longhand, and it just kind of cleans the dust from your brain, so to speak, and kind of it's the other analogy is it's like turning on a tap and getting the rusty water out before the clear water comes. And so it's strange, but I've kind of become addicted to doing that. And so that's what I do every morning before I write.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Can I ask another question?
Sure. I guess. Yeah, it's fine with me.
Yes, definitely. You're good.
Would you do like ghost writing? Would you write be a ghostwriter for someone else if they had ideas and stuff like that? Would you do that?
Probably not. I've got so many ideas burning up in my little fevered brain. I kind of concentrate on those.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it depends on depends on a lot of things, but probably not.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If anyone else would like to ask a question, you have a few more minutes. You could do that. You can raise your hand. If you're on your phone, *9, or Alt-Y on your keyboard. It looks like Sally. You can unmute and ask another question. That's fine.
When you wrote that first book about the river down in Dallas,
Yeah.
how long did it take you to develop Hank and his partner, of course, who was in the hospital dying with cancer, and
Ernie, yeah.
how to bring in his niece, right? That came up from Senate. How long did it take you to just build the foundation for that first book?
So, not long, but the short answer is not long. The long answer is it took me my entire life. And I told you I tried to write the great American novel when I did, and I took 6 months to write 100 pages that were horrible. And then I quit that and realized I should write a genre kind of a book. So I settled on a detective novel. And once I settled on that, everything kind of clicked into place. And I had an opening line in mind, and that I wrote that down typed it in, and then, believe it or not, the opening line of that book, just typing that in, thinking about it, led me to know the ending for a book with characters I didn't know anything about. And it's weird. And I'm not the only person that I've talked to other writers. I'm not the only person who's had that happen.
Uh-huh.
And so that it just came. But I'd been reading detective novels and crime thrillers and whatnot my entire life. So
Yeah.
it had been spilling up in there, and then it just kind of it had been building up in there, and then it just away it went. So now uh, that's great. That's a great story, and everybody loves that story. And then you turn it in, and the publisher loves it, and they goes, "Hey, we love that book. We'd like another one. Can you have it to us in 9 months?" And so you spent your entire life without even knowing it, thinking about this one book, and then you got to do another book in 9 months or a year, whatever it is. And that's like, well, okay, I guess I can. That's that's a horse of a different color right there. So it's I had to learn. I'm still learning how to outline and really think about who the characters are going to be and what their relationships are. But for the first one, I didn't. It just kind of came out.
So the second book was more work than the first one.
In some ways, it was. Yeah, it was.
That's interesting. Thank you.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, all right. If nobody else has any other questions, I would just like to say again, thank you all for joining us this evening, and thank you again, Mr. Hunsicker, for joining us, for taking
Yeah.
time
Thank
out of your
you.
evening.
Thank you. It's been great. Big fun.
Wonderful. I'm so glad. And again, we look forward to being able to listen to more of your
Yeah.
books. So please keep writing them.
I will. I will. You all keep listening. I appreciate it. Thank you for
Absolutely.
having me.
Absolutely. Anytime.